Welcome to the beginning of our terrifying project, recapping every single one of the top 100 horror movies of all-time list, created by Scariest Things. And where better to start than with Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, sitting at number 2 on the very same list. We open with a scenic helicopter ad for Colorado tourism. Mountains, lakes, forests, and a lonely yellow Volkswagen Beetle, crawling up the road towards certain doom. That's Jack Torrance, aspiring novelist, recovering alcoholic, and soon-to-be full-time winter caretaker of the Overlook Hotel. The hotel is massive, beautiful, and completely cut off from civilization for 6 months out of the year. Perfect place for a guy who wants peace and quiet to write his masterpiece. Of course, his definition of peace may include axe-murdering his family, but we'll get to that. Jack meets with the manager, Mr. Ullman, who explains the job. Keep the boiler running, fix things, don't lose your mind. And by the way, Grady, the last caretaker, murdered his wife and daughters with an axe before blowing his own head off. Cabin fever, you know. Jack, naturally, is thrilled. Nothing screams great family vacation like bloodstained hallways. Back at home, Jack's 7-year-old son Danny is busy hanging out with Tony, his imaginary friend who lives in his mouth. Tony gives Danny disturbing visions, like an elevator spewing oceans of blood and 2 creepy little girls in blue dresses. Wendy, Jack's wife, meanwhile, is holding the family together with sheer denial. She explains to a doctor that Jack once dislocated Danny's shoulder in a drunken rage, but hey, he promised to stop drinking, so everything's fine. On closing day, the family drives up to the hotel. Jack's already grinning like a man who just Googled how to cook human meat. Along the way, they casually discuss the Donner Party, those pioneers who survive being snowbound by eating each other. Inside, Ullman gives them the grand tour, Indian-themed decor, a hedge maze designed to trap you for hours, and a ballroom big enough for 300 ghosts. Wendy thinks it's gorgeous. Jack calls it homey, and Danny, well, he sees the creepy twins again. Then there's Dick Halloran, the head chef who bonds with Danny. Turns out both of them have psychic powers, or as Halloran's grandmother called it, The Shining. He warns Danny to stay away from room 237, which of course guarantees Danny will end up in room 237. As the staff clears out, Ullman delivers the kicker that by 5 p.m., they'll never know anyone was ever there. A month passes, snow piles up, and Jack slides further off the rails. His writing is still non-existent. His grooming is gone. His hobbies have become glaring at fireplaces and throwing tennis balls at walls. Truly the picture of a stable genius. Meanwhile, Danny keeps cruising the endless hallways on his tricycle like a miniature Evel Knievel. And finally, payoff. He rounds a corner and comes face to face with the Grady twins. They're polite enough and ask him to play with them, but their definition of play apparently includes lying chopped into pieces in a blood-soaked hallway. Danny screams, but Tony, his mouth-dwelling alter ego, reminds him it's just like pictures in a book. Unfortunately, this particular picture book looks like it came straight from Satan's coloring shelf. Wendy, bless her clueless optimism, tries to keep things normal. She frolics in the snow with Danny while Jack sits inside, staring at the scale model of the hedge maze like a deranged god peeping at his ant farm. The camera zooms in until Jack seems to see his wife and kid lost inside the maze. Then comes the writing breakdown. Wendy interrupts Jack at his typewriter, asking how his work is going. Bad idea. Jack launches into a rant about how every time she speaks, she ruins his concentration. He makes a new rule. If he's in the lounge, she's not allowed to bother him, or breathe, or exist. Then he kicks her out with a casual, "Get the F out of here." Meanwhile, the storm grows worse. The phones are dead, the radio barely works, and cabin fever is setting in. Jack stares into the fire with a look that can only be described as possessed raccoon. His grin is wide, his eyes empty, and the hotel is winning. And then we get one of the creepiest father-son bonding moments in cinema. Danny tiptoes into Jack's room, where Jack is sitting on the bed looking like he hasn't blinked in 6 hours. Jack pulls Danny onto his lap, calls him Doc, and tries to reassure him that everything is fine, except the way he says, "I would never hurt you," sounds less like a promise and more like a threat. Danny clearly isn't buying it. Neither are we. At this point, the Torrances aren't just snowbound. They're sealed in a pressure cooker, and Jack is about to boil over. Danny's tricycle adventures continue until a tennis ball rolls his way and lures him straight into the infamous room 237. The door creaks open and in he goes. Cut to Wendy downstairs, innocently checking boiler gauges like she's in a wholesome Hallmark movie, until she hears Jack groaning like a dying walrus. She rushes upstairs to find him collapsed at his typewriter, drooling and writhing. He wakes up panicked, confessing his nightmare. He killed Wendy and Danny, chopped them up into little pieces. But hey, at least he admits he might be losing his mind. Wendy comforts him until Danny stumbles in like a zombie toddler, thumb in his mouth, sweater ripped, and neck bruised. Off-screen, room 237 has clearly done a number on him. Wendy immediately accuses Jack, because who else has a track record of accidentally breaking their kid? Jack denies it, but it's not exactly convincing. Jack storms off in a rage and finds himself in the gold room. At first it's empty, just him and his self-pity, but then magic. The bar suddenly fills with booze, and behind it stands Lloyd, the ghost bartender every alcoholic dreams of. Jack begs for a drink, offers his soul as collateral, and Lloyd is happy to oblige. Jack downs bourbon like it's holy water, ranting about women, family, and the great burden of being a middle-aged white man. He insists he'd never hurt Danny, except for that one time he did, but it was an accident. Before Jack can polish off round two, Wendy barges in with a baseball bat. She screams that Danny was attacked by a crazy woman in one of the rooms. Jack's face says drunk denial, but his words say, which room? Yep, room 237. Meanwhile, down in sunny Florida, Chef Halloran is living his best bachelor life in a bedroom full of paintings of voluptuous naked women. But mid-TV broadcast, he's slammed by Danny's psychic distress call. The open door of room 237, Danny drooling in a trance, and a bathtub nightmare incoming. Halloran instantly knows, time to pack a bag, brave a snowstorm, and get his ass back to Colorado. Back at the Overlook, Jack investigates room 237 himself. At first, he sees a naked woman in the bathtub who looks like she stepped out of a magazine. She rises, approaches, seduces, and Jack, being Jack, goes for it. Big mistake, because in the mirror, she morphs into a rotting, cackling corpse, skin peeling off like weak old chicken left in the sun. Jack stumbles out in horror, no drink strong enough to erase that image. But when Wendy asks him what he found, Jack gaslights her with a straight face. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Sure, Jack. Danny's psychic episodes intensify. Red rum flashes across doors, and Tony, his creepy alter ego, fully takes over. Meanwhile, Wendy suggests leaving the hotel, but Jack explodes. How dare she ruin his big chance to finally write a book? He storms off. The hotel shifts into full 1920s Gatsby mode, and suddenly the gold room is packed with ghostly partygoers. Jack drinks for free again, orders from the house, and runs into a waiter named Grady. Yes, that Grady, the caretaker who chopped up his family with an axe. Except Grady insists Jack's got it wrong. In fact, he tells Jack, "You've always been the caretaker." Grady then explains that Danny is using his psychic gifts to summon outside help, and that Jack's duty is to correct his wife and child. Correct, of course, meaning axe them into submission. Jack doesn't argue. In fact, he looks almost flattered. Meanwhile, when he contemplates escape, Danny channels Tony full-time with his guttural, "Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance," and Jack sabotages the radios to cut off all hope of outside rescue. The hotel has him now. By now, the walls of the Overlook are closing in. Literally. The phones are dead, the radio's cut, and Jack has gone full manic raccoon. Meanwhile, our man Halloran is racing back through a snowstorm, catching flights and calling in favors for a snowcat. He knows the Torrances are in danger, and he's the only one who can help. Back at the hotel, Wendy decides to finally peek at Jack's masterpiece. And what does she find? Page after page of the same sentence. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Hundreds of times, Different margins, different formats. And then Jack sneaks up behind her, grinning like a demon who just remembered the Wi-Fi password. "How do you like it?" he asks, as if his plagiarized kindergarten essay is supposed to win the Pulitzer. What follows is one of the most uncomfortable marital fights in cinema. Jack taunts Wendy about Danny, twisting every word she says into mockery. She suggests taking their kid to a doctor. Jack hears, "Ruin my career, destroy my legacy, spit on the sacred contract I signed to babysit this haunted hotel." He rants about responsibilities like he's the world's most unhinged middle manager. Wendy, armed with nothing but a baseball bat and raw panic, backs up the stairs while Jack stalks her, delivering one of horror's greatest threats. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in." Charming. Hallmark should put that on a Valentine's card. At the top of the stairs, Wendy connects, a solid swing right to his skull. Jack tumbles down like the world's drunkest ragdoll, and for a moment, it looks like she's won. She drags him into the pantry, locks him inside, and breathes. Victory. Except Jack isn't done. He screams, he pleads, he even whines like a hungover teenager. But then the impossible happens. Grady, the ghostly butler, opens the door for him. The hotel itself is now his accomplice. While Jack is getting a pep talk from beyond the grave, Danny is busy scrawling red rum on the bathroom door. In the mirror, it flips to murder. And right on cue, Jack grabs an axe and goes full slasher mode. He chops through the apartment door, snarling, little pigs, let me come in," until he finally delivers the most famous improvised line in horror. "Here's Johnny." Wendy slashes his hand, but before he can finish the job, Halloran finally arrives in the snowcat. The cavalry is here. Except nope. Jack ambushes him and buries the axe right in his chest. R.I.P. to the only competent adult in the movie. Danny, screaming, runs into the snowy hedge maze, with Jack limping after him like an undead lumberjack. The chase is tense, icy, and beautifully shot, Steadicam weaving through frosted corridors while Jack howls like a beast. But Danny's smart. He retraces his steps, hides in the hedges, and lets his father follow the wrong trail. Jack freezes to death in the maze, his face locked in that meme-worthy rictus grin of madness. Wendy and Danny escape in Halloran's snowcat, and then the camera slowly zooms in on a photo from 1921. The Overlook Hotel, July 4th ball. And there, front and center, smiling like he owns the place, is Jack. He's always been the caretaker. Always will be. Evil doesn't die. It just waits. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time,